I want you to hold two things in your mind right now. A 50-cent bag of rice from the grocery store and a $50 bottle of liquid fertilizer from your local garden center. What if I told you the rice does something the fertilizer never could? What if I told you a plain handful of cooked rice buried 1 inch below your garden bed can permanently multiply the earthworm population in your soil? And that more earthworms means 25% higher crop yields, proven in 58 controlled scientific studies. Not 25% with the premium version, not 25% with the subscription pack, 25% from rice, the kind sitting in your kitchen right now. Today, I'm walking you through 4 specific rice tricks, each one backed by published research that create a self-reinforcing biological system in your soil that gets stronger every single season for almost $0. Before we go any further, if this is the kind of real, no-nonsense gardening knowledge you've been looking for, hit subscribe right now and tap the bell. Every week, I share what the fertilizer companies hope you never figure out. You don't want to miss it. And drop a comment. Are you a backyard gardener, a homesteader, or do you run a full farm? I read every single comment. It helps me make better videos for you. Now, let's get underground, because what's happening beneath your feet right now is either making you money or costing you money, and most people have absolutely no idea which one it is. Here's what nobody tells you when you walk into a garden center. The most powerful workforce on your entire property is invisible. It doesn't need a paycheck. It doesn't take weekends off. It works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it has been doing this job for 300 million years. I'm talking about earthworms. One single square meter of healthy garden soil, about the size of a large welcome mat, can hold over 300 earthworms, and each one processes its own body weight in organic matter every single day. What they leave behind, worm castings, contains 5 times more nitrogen than the surrounding soil, 7 times more phosphorus, 11 times more potassium. You know what those 3 things are? Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. That's the NPK on every bag of synthetic fertilizer you've ever bought. The real question isn't, should I buy fertilizer? The real question is, why am I not feeding the organisms that produce it for free, right underneath my own feet? A 2014 meta-analysis analyzed 58 controlled studies spanning over a century of field research. Earthworm presence in agricultural soils increases crop yield by an average of 25%, above-ground biomass by 23%, total plant biomass by 21%. A 2023 study in Nature Communications estimated earthworms contribute to 6.5% of total global grain production. These are not garden bonus animals, they are food security infrastructure. And most American gardeners have never been taught how to feed them. That changes right now. Here is the single insight that unlocks everything else in this video. Earthworms do not eat soil. They don't eat roots. They don't eat fertilizer. Earthworms eat microbes, bacteria and fungi that colonize decomposing organic matter. That microbial film is the primary food source for every earthworm species in your garden. So the real question is never, how do I add nutrients to my soil? The real question is, how do I feed the microbes that feed the worms that produce the nutrients my plants need? It's a system, and rice, in 4 very specific forms, activates every layer of it. When you add cooked rice to soil, the starch begins breaking down within 24 to 48 hours. Bacteria arrive first, fungi follow. That concentrated microbial bloom is a biological beacon that earthworms detect and move toward. They are not eating the rice, they are eating the city that grows on top of the rice. That is why a few tablespoons of plain cooked rice attracts more worms than a full application of synthetic fertilizer. Fertilizer feeds plants, rice feeds the engine that feeds the plants. Here are the 4 ways to use it. Trick 1. Cooked rice, the fast-acting worm magnet. Plain cooked rice, no salt, no oil, no seasoning. Scatter 2 to 3 tablespoons per square foot across your garden bed. Press it lightly into the surface. Cover it with a thin layer of mulch to hold moisture in. Within 24 to 48 hours, the microbial bloom begins. Within a week, earthworm castings density in that bed starts climbing. Repeat every 2 to 3 weeks through the growing season. I know what some of you are thinking. Won't rice attract pests? Moderation is your protection. 2 to 3 tablespoons breaks down fast enough that microbes consume it before surface pests locate it. You're not leaving rice exposed on top of the soil. You're creating a biological feeding station just below the surface. Cornell, Ohio State, Purdue, Utah State, University of Connecticut, every major extension program lists plain cooked rice as one of the fastest decomposing, most effective organic inputs you can add to a worm system. And here's what most people miss. Every application builds the biology baseline that next season's worms move into. Month after month, the biology gets richer, the worm population gets denser, the castings accumulate. The fertilizer bottle is empty after one season. This system gets stronger after every season. Trick 2. Crushed uncooked rice, the slow-release underground feeder. Cooked rice gives you the fast spike. This gives you the long burn. Raw rice starches aren't gelatinized. They break down over weeks instead of days, creating a sustained biological signal that keeps earthworms active in the treated zone across an entire growing period. Take dry rice and run a rolling pin over it a few times. Just crack the grain open to expose the starch to soil moisture. Scatter 1 to 2 tablespoons per square foot. Work it into the top 2 inches of soil. Cover with mulch. A 2016 study in the International Journal of Environmental Health tested rice bran and broken rice as feedstock for earthworm systems. Result: rice-based substrates produced high-quality vermicompost with significant nutrient enrichment. Elevated nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium in the castings compared to non-rice controls. The rotation I recommend: cooked rice every 2 weeks for the fast microbial spike, crushed raw rice monthly for the sustained baseline. Together, they create a continuous feeding cycle with no gaps all season long. Trick 3. Fermented rice water, the liquid microbial accelerator. Every time you rinse rice before cooking, most of you pour that cloudy water straight down the drain. Stop doing that. That water is loaded with dissolved starches, amino acids, B vitamins, phosphorus, and potassium leached right off the grain surface. When you let it ferment at room temperature for 24 to 72 hours, it transforms into a living microbial inoculant ready to apply directly to your garden. A 2023 study by Nabai and colleagues, published in Helion and indexed through PubMed Central, tested fermented rice water across 3 consecutive field planting cycles. The results? Significant increase in beneficial soil bacterial populations, including nitrogen-fixing bacteria and phosphorus-solubilizing organisms. Plant growth improved, nutrient uptake increased, soil bacterial diversity rose in every treated plot compared to controls. Here is the exact method. Rinse 1 cup of uncooked rice in 2 cups of water. Save the cloudy rinse water in a glass jar. Cover loosely so gas can escape. Leave it at room temperature for 2 to 3 days. When it develops a slightly sour smell, that's active fermentation. That's exactly what you want. Dilute 1:1 with fresh water and apply directly to the soil around your plants once per week. You are not feeding the plant. You are feeding the microbial community in the root zone, the same community earthworms consume, the same community that makes nutrients available to roots. It costs nothing, it uses water most people discard, and it has measurable results across multiple peer-reviewed field trials. Keep the jar going all season. Every time you cook rice, you have more. Trick 4. Rice in the worm bin and compost pile, the population multiplier. The first 3 tricks work in your garden bed. This one works at the source, the systems that supply your garden.
A 2018 study tested earthworms, rice material, and plants in controlled soil systems. Rice residue significantly increased earthworm body weight and biomass. The worms fed on the microbial communities colonizing the rice and converted it into castings that measurably improved soil structure and nutrient availability. A 2020 study in Peer J found something that stopped me cold the first time I read it. With earthworms present, rice straw was completely consumed within 4 weeks. Without earthworms, identical material remained largely intact after 18 weeks. 4 weeks versus 18 weeks, same material. The only variable was the worms. In your worm bin, add 2 to 3 tablespoons of plain cooked rice per feeding, mixed in with your regular scraps. It accelerates microbial colonization of the entire bin, which speeds up castings production. In your compost pile, scatter crushed raw rice or leftover cooked rice between your green and brown layers. The starch feeds the bacteria that break down cellulose and lignin, the hard stuff that always slows your pile down. The output from both systems goes back into the garden beds where tricks 1 through 3 are already running. Rice feeds microbes, microbes feed worms, worms produce castings, castings build soil, soil grows food. Every cycle makes the next one faster. Here's what I need you to understand before we close. This knowledge is not new. It didn't come from a lab. It didn't come from a startup. It came from the hands of farmers who never had a synthetic product to fall back on. Japanese natural farming traditions incorporated fermented rice preparations as standard soil treatments decades before Western science published its first peer-reviewed paper on the mechanism. Korean natural farming codified rice-based microbial inoculants as core practice generations ago. Rice paddy farmers across Southeast Asia returned rice straw and residues to their fields for centuries, maintaining earthworm populations and soil fertility with zero synthetic inputs. Western science didn't discover this, it confirmed it. The silence around rice as a soil amendment in American gardening is not accidental. The agrochemical industry doesn't need to hide information. They just need to make sure you never connect a 50-cent kitchen staple to the living system it activates underground. You just made that connection. Here's where you start, tonight. If you cooked rice this week, save the rinse water right now. Mason jar, counter, 3 days. First batch of fermented rice water is ready. If you have leftover cooked rice in the fridge, 2 tablespoons tomorrow morning on a garden bed covered with mulch, then wait and watch. If you run a worm bin, plain cooked rice at your next feeding, check the activity 2 weeks from now. If your soil feels dead, combine all 4 tricks across 1 season. The biology will rebuild from the ground up. Total investment for all 4 tricks across a full growing season, under $5, less than 1 bottle of liquid fertilizer. And unlike that bottle, this system does not stop working when it's empty. It compounds year after year. The biology gets deeper, the worm population gets denser, the soil gets richer, the yields keep climbing. The worms will do the rest for free. If this video changed how you see your soil, 3 things right now. Hit that like button. 1 second. It tells YouTube this information deserves to reach every gardener and farmer who needs it. Subscribe and ring the bell, because the follow-up video on the exact compost system that takes these tricks to the next level is coming soon. If you're not subscribed, you will miss it. And drop a comment. Tell me one thing. Are you starting with fermented rice water tonight or going straight to the worm bin? I'm reading every comment this week. The knowledge was never lost. It was sitting in the rice pot, in the rinse water, in the hands of farmers who never needed a product to build living soil. Now it's in your hands. Go grow something.